years ago. He sailed just off the coast of Russia. He was in the Laptev Sea, and he sailed over to the eastern Siberian Arctic shelf. The water temperature, he's an oceanographer. Peter Wadhams, he's published over 300 scientific papers and journals. He's published multiple books. He's a member of the Arctic Methane Emergency Group, which I'm also one of the founders of. So Peter measured the water temperature. It was 17 degrees Celsius at the surface. It was, the air temperature was 19 degrees. This was August 2014. A few years previous, in fact, all the years before 2005, this region was covered with sea ice. And because it was covered with sea ice, it is over a continental shelf, the water is very shallow. In fact, 75% of the shelf is less than 40 meters deep. So this water temperature, all the way from the surface to the bottom underneath the ice, stayed at about freezing temperature, 0 degrees, minus 1.8 is the freezing point of seawater. So it was that temperature. So therefore, this ocean sediments at the seafloor are cold. There's methane stored in ice crystals called clathrates underneath the seafloor, and that stuff's kind of stayed there. Well, since 2005, we've had very warm temperatures of this water above the shelf. The methane is starting to bubble up, it's starting to go into the atmosphere, and it's a very, very powerful greenhouse gas. In fact, on a time scale of a couple of years, it's about 150 times worse than carbon dioxide. So we have multiple feedbacks that are going on right now as we speak in the Arctic. We're going to reach a state where there's no sea ice in August, September, within a few short years. I would say it's almost certainly going to happen before 2020. So why do we care about this? Well, what happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. The Arctic's part of our overall climate system. Try to connect the dots, try to think big picture all of the time. So because the Arctic is warming so much, the temperature difference to the equator is much reduced. Well, that temperature difference determines the jet streams, which determine the weather on our planet. So the jet streams are slowing and becoming wavier. They're going much farther north, much farther south. So they're getting stuck. So we're getting huge torrential rains. Cities around the world are getting 6 months of rainfall in a night or two. Overwhelming infrastructure causing flooding. We've seen it in Canada, in Calgary and Toronto, just a few years ago. We've seen it in entire countries like Pakistan in 2010, flooding in 3/4 of the country. Meanwhile, in the crest of the jet streams at Moscow, their wheat crop failed. They didn't export. They had to import grain that year, and it triggered the Arab Spring because food prices spiked up. So climate change is real, and it's getting a lot worse. In fact, we need to declare a climate emergency. I think that's what we should all be pushing for. We need to talk to politicians. What do people need to see an emergency? Yeah, I mean, the coral reefs are dying before our eyes. Isn't that an emergency?
Yes.
Do you know that about 1/4 of all the fish in the ocean spend some of their time on coral reefs, either using it for spawning, using it for shelter? You know, what are these fish going to do? Are they going to survive a destruction of coral reefs globally? Right? Our ecosystems are dying around the world, and our politicians are idiotic, and the corporations are idiotic. They're going to not have any customers soon, these corporations. You know, we're the customers. We buy stuff from them. Don't they realize that our life is threatened on our planet? So this is an emergency. That's the first thing. And there's other things that we can do. I mean, there is hope. I'm not saying there's no hope. In fact, I'm very confident that we can, once we get our act together and row in the same direction, we can address this problem. But the first step is declare a climate emergency.